Okay, welcome everybody to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. My name is Joseph Montgomery. For everybody who knows me, it's fantastic. I'm glad that you all are here this evening. We're here at Raw Revelations today, speaking on the inflammation topic and actually understanding a couple different aspects about how inflammation is not only something that it really does help you in certain times in certain ways, but if it's happening too frequently, too often, then it becomes a problem. So as we talk about inflammation, the power and the problem of it, we really want to understand how it's working and how it's helping us not to completely reduce it to the point where it's not doing its main function, but also allowing it to do some of its work to really help our bodies heal. So we will go through some great products tonight that actually focus on being anti-inflammatory, talking about ways to kind of reduce your overall inflammation level in your body and be able to help out your system in terms of battling the areas where it's chronic and be able to find out how to fix and help things that are acute. So the way we begin all of our Thursdays is we actually go through our functional conscious breathing exercise. So if you'll go ahead and take a few seconds to prepare yourself to get ready to do a little bit of deep breathing. That's going to be able to set apart this hour from the last 15 or 20 hours of your day and make it to where hopefully we can get into a better atmosphere for this little talk here. So the way we do this is we take 7 seconds of breath in. We kind of hold there after we're done doing that inhalation. And we do a nice exhalation for 8 seconds, breathing everything all the way out down to a point where you can kind of feel your lungs sort of get to a little closed spot. And then you do that process twice. And then we'll have 30 seconds of nothing. And we'll just go right into the rest of our talk for this evening. So begin with me. Focus on the fact of actually using the diaphragm. 7 seconds of breath in. Holding for a few seconds. 8 seconds of breath out. All the way down to the bottom. 7 seconds of breath in. Holding for a few seconds. And 8 seconds of breath out. Thank you for sharing with me that 1 minute. I hope you continue that process as much as you possibly can throughout your day. At least I can get you to do it once a week if you're coming here. So thank you so much for helping me during that. I at least now feel like I've benefited everybody who just was able to breathe for a couple seconds. Because really, a lot of times, that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't ever do is take the time to do something good for yourself. That's where a little problem, a little inflammation gets to the final point of being something that hurts. And then we let the hurt go for as long as we can possibly stand it. And then we get to the point where we can't bear it anymore. And then we finally go to see somebody and say, help me. When really the sad part is if they would have just had some sort of solution system when the inflammation began in the beginning, they'd be able to finally start seeing relief and never let it get to a point of actually affecting body organs. So I want to go through on the second page. Hopefully everybody's got a couple of items that they've been able to write down on some of the inflammatory diseases that you might know, to where we can kind of use those as way of talking about this for the rest of the evening and kind of frame it with some real world examples of inflammation in the human body. So we'll just start up front. Acne is the inflammation of a pore. Yes, very much so. Good one. Multiple different things, but I would say for acne, the two biggest contributors are something in the blood that's getting underneath the skin and needing to be detoxed out. And the only way for it to actually be released from the body is through the pore instead of an excretory function. So your skin does do general detoxification, and if it's an oil-based toxin, then it's going to be in the sebaceous oils and be concentrated underneath of the skin and in those pores. So there's two parts to this. One, there is the benefit of actually cleansing the skin properly and exfoliating and actually making it to where there's nothing blocking the actual pores and allowing them to get any kind of material blocking the oils. The other part is to get into the actual blood system work on liver function, get the body to start being generally detoxifying to reduce the actual occurrence of the acne down. So look at the internal reasons for the cause of it and take care of that external dermis while you're trying to find the solutions. So it is kind of a two-part one. And again, everybody has maybe a food type, a slight allergen that they're ingesting, or an environmental toxin that could be exacerbating, plus the ability for hormone control and balance to actually be a major contributory factor as well too. So acne is a little bit of a multi-prong one, but it is something where you can see it is a very common and I would say easier than a lot of the other inflammatory diseases that are out there because it just takes a little bit of a routine, a practice. We do see a lot of people who salicylic acid and constantly scorching the skin and removing all the oil is not healthy. Your body still needs to produce some, but it's definitely one of those to where we want to have it be controlled and be healthy. So most likely internal. And again, when we talked about our class where we did the face diagnostics and the tongue examinations, that acne location is telling you something about the organ that's actually being affected. So that's another unique thing to understand. So when you're doing general cleansing of the body, then you can actually see that, you know, having just the brow region, just the chin, right underneath of the cheekbones is also going to indicate a certain body organ. And learning face diagnostics for somebody who's working in anestheticians or working with people routinely solving skin issues, that's the way to go. Oh, I can see you've got, you know, an area that's just that one spot that's inflamed. The acne's popping up there. Maybe we need to clean your gallbladder, your kidneys, your spleen, your, you know, something's going on inside your heart, your lungs, and it's all going to show up on your face. So that's another big piece in that. Cool. Inflammatory hepatitis. Okay, fantastic. Now, here's one of those catch 22s. Do you mean like hepatitis A, B, and C? No. So the idea though, hepatitis is actually a viral issue. It creates inflammation in the actual liver function, which is why we'll call it hepatitis, but it's actually a body infection. The inflammation is a side effect. So that's one of those where to fix that, you actually have to go more towards the idea of boosting the immune system and getting a lot of antiviral, antimicrobial material in the body in order to actually see that. The hepatitis in terms of the cirrhosis or the inflammation of the actual liver function is something that also has to be, that is, so it's affecting the liver, but it's caused by a virus. So not actually an inflammatory disease, viral disease. So, but you got the idea. Evelyn? Angioma. Okay, fantastic. That's a nice one. Yeah. So again, nice. Yeah, nice swelling of the face and breaking of the capillaries. Um, yeah, it's an interesting one. That's definitely one where it's a lot of times gut health is the big key to that, and not having, you know, allergenic foods as well too, and just the general body retention or edema, holding moisture in areas where it shouldn't be. So when you're getting the actual breakage of those capillaries, a lot of times you're wanting to boost cholesterol, vitamin D, make the actual skin and the dermis healthier by using things like colostrum and aloe vera to actually strengthen the dermis and the subdermis, as well as working with anti-inflammatories, MSM, turmeric, things of that nature to bring that down in the body. So yeah, definitely one of those where, good one though, I like that one. It's very different. Arthritis, heavy joint issues. We're going to talk a lot about MSM tonight and magnesium, two great arthritis balancers. Big secret though is that a lot of times people don't understand that it still is slightly bacteria related. And the joints are being inflamed because of bacteria being inside, breaking the tissue down, usually due to overabsorption or blood serum glucose levels. So candida infection and being locked into the joints, or you start actually storing toxicity in the joints and your macrophaging white blood cells start attacking the cartilaginous tissues and you start developing arthritis in that form. So the difference between rheumatoid or osteoarthritis versus gout, you're seeing that the immune relationship is the rheumatoid. The physical effect to the joint is the osteo, and gout's that byproduct of acid in the body. All three styles of arthritis. So yeah, very good one though. Psoriasis. So yes, again, liver function. The idea of doing damage to the tissues. But one thing to keep in mind about anybody who you talk to here, the liver regenerates almost all of its tissues within a couple years. So cirrhosis of the liver is something that you can actually repair if you're doing liver friendly, liver healthy functionality inside your diet and your body system and reducing inflammation. It's definitely one of those organs that will regenerate very rapidly, and can be healed. It's just the problem that most people don't remove the material that's creating the cirrhosis, and they don't take that out of their life, so they just keep getting inflamed. But that's a very good one. Very good one. Colitis, yes. Again, very common these days because the food has gone to hell. So it's colitis is one of these major issues that it gets such a broad spectrum of diagnostics out there. Everything from your celiacs to Crohn's to IBS to IBD. Just the idea of sour stomach, which is what it would have been called before. More of the olden day term. And again, colitis is one of those where it's usually something that's going into the body that if you can start to remove those issues, then your body will start to reduce its inflammation level and colitis will start to reduce. But it's definitely an issue that you've got to find the foods, find the compounds, and it can be something as pervasive as citric acid, sodium benzoate, different types of fertilizers, fungicides, things of that nature that are in the foods that you don't even know are a part of the product that you're actually having a reaction to. So gluten's always given the sort of like king trump card now as being the big colitis, creator. So it's the gluten. Everybody goes along the gluten issue. But some people are literally, and I do know people who, here's the funny one, they are ultra allergic to the strings on the outside webbing of celery. So if they peel those off, they can eat celery perfectly fine, have no issues. If they leave the celery whole, it destroys their stomach. So how funny. Yeah. Oh, she can't touch it? That's amazing. So again, it's just very interesting. Colitis is, and a lot of people suffer from it, and it's such a, I would call it a life affecting, one where people are definitely trying to discover how do I get on top of this problem, because it seems just immense. Everything I eat is causing a problem. What do I do? And a lot of times it's because you're eating in one section of the grocery store and maybe not at your farmer's market, where all of a sudden you'd have no colitis. And that can sometimes be that big, big benefit to a lot of people. Phil back there?
It's not really a disease, but inflammation due to like bruising.
Okay. Okay. So you're speaking on the acute inflammation that occurs whenever we have blood breakage due to impact, contusion, compression of the skin. Yeah, it's actually the positive side of inflammation. You want that to happen. You don't want it to happen so frequently that you're actually seeing multiple areas of random bruising to show that the blood's leaking all the time. But it's actually the helpful response of the body when you're hit by something to inflame, swell the area, slow blood flow, bruise, have that area be reabsorbed into that portion. And again, it's one of those where that's the way our body should work. But acute inflammation is extreme on that trauma center. Sue, do you have one? No? What's that? Tonsillitis. Oh yes, yes, yes. The childhood 1960s, 1990s, wonderful way of removing all tonsils and adenoids out of people, which by chance happens to be your largest lymph glands. So when you lose them, they actually destroy and they can affect your overall immune function. Whereas a lot of times, again, tonsillitis, when we were seeing it, was mostly environmental influences because we were experiencing a lot more toxicity in the air that we are breathing. And so the lymph would absorb those toxins and they would just cut them out and say, hey, you're fine. But you're right. Very good tonsillitis. Val, do you have an inflammatory disease or illness that you want to share? Fibromyalgia. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Right. Wonderful. Yeah, yeah, but fibromyalgia technically is the inflammation around the nerve system. And it's unique because total body pain is something we're not meant to experience. We're actually meant to experience pain in one area, like when Evelyn scratches her legs, or you stub a toe, you break a bone. Inflammation in that one spot, your body does okay with. And over the entire surface of your skeletal system, everywhere, no matter what you do, always in pain. Terrible issue. But we'll talk about actually some solutions for fibromyalgia as well too that again work on the very natural healing systems that are out there. So that was great. Thank you so much for everybody kind of like sharing those little bits, because I think even just that 10-minute section there of understanding shows how there's a lot of different ways to see inflammation appear, and there's also very great ways of getting rid of it and solving the problem. So we really want to, to see that be the main focus out of this evening, is for people to take away, how do I solve this inflammation problem, especially chronic inflammation in the body. So there are two types of inflammation. I mentioned acute, which is the idea of something that happens at a particular point in time. Smashing your thumb or finger with a hammer, it will turn a very interesting color. At first, exceptionally bright red. A lot of times, it will actually switch over once it started the bruising process, and then it's all great, wonderful, funky colors. The area swells. It becomes ultra heated. Has a very interesting texture, becomes very turgid, to where there's a lot of fluid flushing to that location. And again, all of these are actually helpful things. They help the body heal that particular area. We want inflammation to happen in these ways. It again saves us if we're actually experiencing any kind of not just abrasions and overall like contusions, but we're also thinking about when we get a actual laceration, we want it to swell to stop the bleeding in that particular area, to slow our blood loss. That's all good for healing our bodies. And there's an immense, wonderful concept here, is that we're actually a self-healing machine that operates very efficiently. So we want that process to be there. It's unique whenever we get to chronic inflammation, though, because the solution systems for most drug systems out there to solve inflammation shuts down your body's natural ability to either be inflamed when you need to, and heal and use your immune system properly. So many of our autoimmune conditions, the drugs that are used to solve these problems, are literally tearing your body's ability to fight even simple infections away. And we're going into a time period of having ultra antibiotic resistant viruses and microbes around us, and here we are taking products that will shut your immune system off. We don't want that to be the way that we solve these problems. We really do want to go at our inflammation issues in a very simple, very structured way. understand that it's a time-wise process. Our five essentials class talks about things like magnesium and MSM. MSM again is probably the first and foremost, best way to handle chronic inflammatory diseases. It's definitively the compound that gets in and starts healing tissue and allows for general inflammation to start, decreasing. As sulfur gets back into the body, the ability to heal tissues actually improves, and our tissue regeneration capabilities start to increase. So cellular sulfur is something that we're actually missing, and very few people talk about this. Athletes a lot of times know about MSM because of it being something that repairs muscle and decreases muscle fatigue, but it's never the first go-to principle for things like arthritis, for even colitis, for actually understanding that all of the allergy functions, again, inflammation is a part of our body's natural system. So we want to keep it there and functional. We just want it to get really good to where the inflammation actually stops after the problem's gone. We don't want it to be a chronic issue. So when we're dealing with the solution set here, I think MSM for just about everybody who's experiencing any type of inflammation needs to start with that one particular product. And again, start slow and start low with the dosing. Start about a half a teaspoon a day. Be able to kind of get material. The MSM mixture that we have here is a triple distilled version of the actual sulfur compound and fully methylated for the blood absorption to actually get it inside your body's intestinal lining. Very different than the idea of just eating even sulfur-rich vegetables a lot of time, because the sulfur has to be unbonded in order to be given to your body during the digestive process. And that's something that's not as simple and as easy as we think it is, versus an MSM product being in the actual methylation zone. This means it's already given the transport carrier to get in, across that bloodstream barrier and allow for the sulfur to be used inside the rest of the body. Yes, Doc? Uh-huh. Yeah. Sulfur vegetables, yeah, garlics and broccolis, all the cruciferous vegetables, yeah, exactly. But that's that big difference about being able to titrate this directly into the bloodstream. Not only does MSM start battling the inflammation, but for things like colitis and IBS, it's actually going to start healing the internal function of the liver for cirrhosis, for hepatitis attacks. And the liver function is so critical because that's that blood filtration organ that's there to support us to where the rest of the actual body isn't receiving damage and creating other cascading inflammatory issues. Whenever that liver function starts to decrease, we really see an overall loss in the body's ability to keep itself clean, which just means more inflammation keeps happening in other locations. Again, dementia and Alzheimer's, when you're mentioning this concept, the actual inflammation of the fat cells in the brain. This is, again, an amazing problem to have, because it doesn't occur in a lot of other countries. They just don't see it at the rate that we have here. It's in these environmental toxicities and raising heavy metal levels inside the body, and the inability. We've gone away from the whole ability to have fat rich diets that actually protect our brain, things high in omega oils that actually allow for the protection of those cells in the body, become a great way for us to start discovering how to reverse and completely eliminate what most people are told is a lifelong progressive fatal disease. It doesn't have to be that way. That's one of those amazing sort of operations that we get inside this process of natural healing, is that once the cells have what they need to stop the inflammation happening, and we can maybe, if it is a toxicity issue, start to pull compounds out of the body and remove them, that's where we see a lot of good benefit and good healing start to occur. When we start to see things like TMG, which is trimethylglycine, actually back into the system. These methyl groups are what allow for the detoxification, the natural detoxification of our cells to occur on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be fast, it doesn't have to create any additional pain, any issues, any struggle, but it will start allowing the body to express items and compounds in order to reduce that inflammation signatures that are in there. One of the unique things when it comes to talking about getting on a healing protocol is a lot of people don't even get a C-reactive protein test on a routine basis if they're dealing with an inflammatory disease. And C-reactive protein is what will tell us whether or not you're chronically inflamed. So that's a value that we can actually see, and it's a very measurable way of knowing if what you're doing when it starts to coming to natural healing is actually having an effect. So that C-reactive protein is a great way to get down to the actual brass tacks in your primary care physician's office and say, hey, listen, test this level. I want to know what it is, and then go on an MSM regimen for 3 to 6 months and see how your body actually drops that C-reactive protein level. So that will tell us if inflammation is decreasing in the body. So that's a fantastic way of seeing this. I mentioned TMG, MSM, both of these are methyl donors. So they work in the same sort of way, the same great opportunities of not only absorbing better nutrition, but starting that detoxification process. Things that are more directly affecting the actual inflammatory issues is things like spirulina and schizandra. Spirulina has actually gone through clinical test trials at showing to be better at reducing inflammation in people. I think the test was everybody was 75 and older, some level of debilitating arthritis, and there was another test that I found that was some level of I think a chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia study that showed that spirulina was able to reduce 20 to 30% of what people were feeling in terms of daily inflammation. And that was at a teaspoon a day. That was just a really small dose. I think I make salad dressing that actually has 2 tablespoons in it with the spirulina. And it's very, very wonderful for just getting that a routine material. And the way it does it is actually both detoxifying, but it's also adding in trace elements, trace nutrients back into the body to actually reduce your cellular inflammation when our body system sort of isn't functioning as well. Because I think what happens, and one of the root causes for why inflammation actually occurs, is our cells sort of turn off. Their I don't know. It's better, but maybe a good, really good way of explaining it is once the system starts being inflamed, and it is just a tiny problem, and you think, oh, not a big deal, I'm not really hurting, I'll be okay, I'll just push through it. It sort of is turning on this signal system. And just like an air raid siren, the rest of the body is hearing that there's actually inflammation occurring in some organ. And if it's affecting other systems, like I say, everything's interconnected. That's my theme for this entire year, 2015, is that you are interconnected. Nothing is apart from the other parts of your whole. You can't have pancreatitis, cirrhosis of the liver, inflammation in the thyroid or the brain and not have it affecting all the other systems in your body. So if we can understand that, that's where holistic care is so important. So spirulina is in there, and it's actually nutrifying all these organelles, finally getting the cells to say, oh yeah, I do need to bring in better nutrition, more compound vitamins, more vitamin C, more vitamin E, allowing for just the general cell's function to go back to working. As MSM comes in, it allows for that detoxification, TMGs, and they allow for the expression of those things, because your cells in their smart way of living will actually isolate themselves off once they become too full of toxins to be able to actually keep its operation. So if that's concentrated to one organ, you lose function in that organ. If it's on the skin, you'll start to see eruptions and issues and material on the skin. And that's where we can start to understand that once those cells turn off, you've got to find a way of returning them back to normal function and letting them do their jobs. That's what will heal the body. Detoxification through this way of vitamin nutrition and getting high level compounds in the body is something that we love working with here. Again, vitamin C is one of our base antioxidants. Actually does 60% of the antioxidant function inside our blood system. More of our cells require vitamin C than they actually do most of the other essential vitamins. When we're low on this, then the antioxidant function or the oxidation of our system, our blood especially, starts to get to a point to where that cellular shutdown occurs. And this is one of the direct correlations to things like cancer, fibromyalgia, and some of the chronic fatigue syndrome, muscle wasting conditions, Parkinson's disease, where systems of the body just stop functioning. Again, we can see that the inflammation was that initial cause, and sometimes you've been carrying that around on your body for 10, 15, 20, 50 years with no change is occurring. No one has ever told you it's not right to get a headache once a week. once a day, once a month, whatever it is, in any kind of routine fashion. That's not the way your body is supposed to work. You're not supposed to, be out eating general food and having the entire bowels flush out because your body is so inflamed it can't deal with processing one particular food type or food compound. Um, so we love working with bringing in these compounds, TMG, MSM, spirulina, schizandra berry. Schizandra berry, again, one of these things, it's so crazy how it works. It actually touches the top of your tongue and activates all of the taste senses, which connect to every single nerve fiber in your entire body. So every nerve is represented by one tendril of it connecting to the tongue. So when the tongue gets activated by eating schizandra, which is called the five flavor berry, it activates all those regions and it creates an electrochemical flush, kind of like going to an acupuncturist. So it's an amazing process for people to understand how just being generally inflamed, especially all over inflammation, body's hurting in a lot of different areas, this can be a key to creating the signals that say, okay, let's get rid of this. We're a society that's lost the bitter flavors. We don't use bitters anymore. We don't take astringent flavors or sour as often. We love milk, honey, sweets, and sugars. Everything has to be, ultra fatty, ultra sweet. And that doesn't allow for the rest of the body's processing to occur. Liver operation stops whenever digestive bitters doesn't come into your food style. It's what helps us express the actual material. This is why so many culture-based foods have certain items on the plate that look like decoration. The little sprig of parsley and the little slice of radish on most Mexican-style cuisine is an after-dinner treat to begin the digestive process. And when you don't take that, then your body says, sure, thanks for the burrito, but now what? And it's again a big thing to understand. It's there for a reason. It's not actually just decoration. Leaving an Indian restaurant and taking a little handful of the fennel seeds, the little candies that they have on that dish, is the way to start your body producing extra enzymes. Just taking a handful of candied fennel seeds and actually chomping them at the end of every meal is a great way for people who have digestive fatigue, digestive inflammation, to start boosting your body's ability to break material down. Again, we didn't talk about things like heartburn, which again is just inflammation from the acid production inside your body. It's because digestion's not moving anywhere and your stomach can't handle that much acid for too long of a time without causing for ultra inflammation, heartburn, acid reflux, and these conditions to occur. But it's a digestive function issue that you can start to repair. So we really want to see how things like Schizandra can be almost this key pin for starting healing to occur in anybody's body. And it's unique because when you actually start eating it, some people taste sweet, some people taste it more sour, some people taste it extremely bitter. It has all of those senses. And so it's really interesting to taste food that just is very out of our norm and kind of see those operations for it. When we see things like acute trauma, magnesium is, again, the main mineral that we need to get back into the body. It's the number one deficiency. 96 to 98% of the population is deficient in magnesium. There isn't a single person who I shake hands with on a day-to-day basis who isn't magnesium deficient. So the idea is everybody here leaving this operation, this class, and understanding these details should be at least focused, and transdermal magnesium is the fastest absorbing way to get it back into the body. So if you're not a routine bather, you're not in the ocean every day, you're not getting the actual skin to absorb your magnesium, this is the way to start getting it back into the body. It's as simple, literally, as putting a little bit in your hands, rubbing it right on the back of your neck, and walking out the door. You don't have to go through a tremendous ritual for it. Just get it into the skin. Let it be an absorptive process, and you can use it on target locations if you're experiencing inflammation in one particular area, and it doesn't matter where that organ might be, still put it on the outside of wherever the pain occurred. It will absorb in, and your body will try to get it to the place where it needs to go. So when it comes to any illness, any issue, anything from, even like I say, I was talking to somebody a couple days ago, the standard monthly, cycle and cramping that occurs for women is something where just put it on the actual top area of all those muscles and let it be relaxed. It'll stop that process. It's because you're magnesium deficient that the cramping began in the first place. So let's get more magnesium into your routine, your pattern. When it comes to muscle constriction and that style of inflammation, we want people to be exercising and feeling good. And then a lot of people say it hurts. I agree, it does hurt. But that's the good process about making your body feel better. And if you've got things like MSM and magnesium, they'll help you do more exercise, feel better about it, get out more, be better in your routines with it. So those items that we kind of went over, one of the big ones that I want to make sure everybody kind of leaves with today is the concept of what turmeric actually does. Turmeric's given and clouded very heavily as being an anti-inflammatory super herb for creating everything from Alzheimer's reduction to inflammation of the intestines, even dropping things like colon cancer down to next to nothing on PSA values. It's a unique compound that's in this herb called curcumin. But the unique thing that I find that I think this company, Raw Revelation, supports is the idea that you shouldn't take that one item out of the herb and think that you're doing somebody a favor. The herb itself is designed in a way that actually knows what it's doing in terms of its ability to be absorbed. So using whole herb extracts is the best way to get the high quality curcumin out, but leaving in compounds like Turmarone and Turmarol, which are two other additional anti-inflammatories that help curcumin do its function and operation. Yes, Sue? I would start everybody off who's even not experiencing inflammation on a daily basis with at least 1 to 2 teaspoons of our liquid extract, to where you're getting a very high quality extract in oil with cracked pepper already developed into it. Again, cracked pepper and turmeric, for some reason, these two plants get together and literally it's 3,000% difference in activation. So turmeric without cracked pepper, not even operational. Turmeric with cracked pepper, full function and capability. So understand that Indian-based food structures, when they did their curry system, was always mixing turmeric and pepper. It was always in just the general diet, which is why that country experiences the lowest rate of Alzheimer's, dementia, a lot of the different sort of mood and mental disorders, and any of our sort of low body intestinal issues when we come to a lot of the cancer systems for the excretory organs, urogenital system, they don't see that occurring because they're eating turmeric all the time. It's a part of their system. Typically best under the tongue. You want the best absorption rate. One thing I find for a lot of people is they put it into a glass, and the problem with an oil extract is most of it's going to go around the outside edge of the glass, not inside. So get it into the body as much as you possibly can.
So the powder form of turmeric.
Correct.
With that. So like I'll put that when I can and sip it.
Uh-huh.
And then I add that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and again, if you're using powdered material in water or something like that, or making golden milk, then this is one of those where you can take powdered turmeric and enhance it by actually adding the oils and the cracked pepper to something like a water drink.
But I didn't add water with the pepper.
So,
I just drink it with water.
so start. Great process.
So if I just add that.
If you add that,
What if I put that under my tongue and drink that?
so yeah, that'll help.
Or drink that.
I would drink this and then put that underneath the tongue. But even for people who are juicing turmeric, this is a great thing to understand. You should be adding at least a tablespoon of oil or so to your juice drink. And this is for greens or anything when it comes to the actual absorption rates for juicing. That's actually a very critical phase because most of the plant beneficial compounds are actually absorbed through oil-based absorption versus the idea of just using straight water. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, just take a little taste after, yeah, right afterwards, and that way it's in the stomach system and working in through its process. The oil will start absorbing the actual beneficial compounds, the different polyphenols, the different antioxidants, the different beta carotene compounds, all of those that you're looking for in a much higher rate. So one of the key secrets to doing juices that are exceptionally healthy is get your oil in the process. Definitely start using that. And again, turmeric requires it for its actual function. Water and turmeric helps a small bit with inflammation, but it's the oil that actually does the most absorption. And it makes sense because it's going to carry it to places where oil is actually used by the body: the liver, the heart, the brain. So those are those three main areas where we really want turmeric and its effects for its anti-inflammatory function to be focused. So that's a definitive basis here. I definitely want to go through um, this. Tis the season. So detoxification is a wonderful process. It's definitely something that I hope everybody at least does in a slight way or slight level, at least different parts of times of the year when it's essential. This is the season of greens. So begin to start doing a lot of greens in your daily routines. Get back into green juices. I don't do greens during the winter. It's not the right time for the body's function to be taking things out when you're supposed to be absorbing material and building the blood back up. But this is the perfect time of year for us to start looking at green drinks, juice cleanses, liver cleanses, detoxes, colon cleanses, blood cleansing after this long, we didn't really have a winter here, but we still, still have to go through those cycles and understand that this is when your body's actually better to start that process. It'll help you because of the way that the sun has changed, the temperature has changed, your activity level has changed, and all of these things now are supporting to where this is that season for best operation. When it comes to inflammation and detoxing, food-related issues are something that I would say everybody needs to examine. What are you eating? Again, if you just write down a list of all the things you normally eat in a week and then put a tick mark by how many times you ate them during that 7-day cycle, and you cut one of those out that you're eating in very high consistency and you see your inflammation level decrease, that's a nice way of structuring. Elimination diets are tricky because cross inflammation or cross allergenics is a big issue. If you cut gluten and then you were cutting dairy or different types of meats or whatever at the same time, you may not really see which one was really causing the issue or the problem. But elimination diets are fantastic. But I really want to express to people that when it comes to cellular inflammation and toxicity buildup, using compounds like our detoxify are one of the best ways of doing the seek and destroy of getting into cells and pulling out compounds that are not supposed to be there. Environmental toxins, aerosol issues like we talked about, heavy metal toxicity, pharmaceutical toxicity, and really working the body system in. Even if you're just doing a teaspoon a day for a couple weeks to kind of see if your body will start to let go of compounds and get material away from you, then this is something where I highly recommend the Detoxify during this season to be added to juice drinks, to your normal smoothies or shakes, to where you're not really doing anything different, but you're adding a compound that's going to let your body, that's naturally detoxifying, start cleaning itself a little more effectively. Teaspoon. Yeah. Yeah, really, really good way to, and it's gentle. It's easy. You're not going to hurt through the process. I'm running about 4 or 5 people right now through, liver cleanses and colon and gallbladder and different type and they're active in their detoxification. This is a great way to just let it be a part of your process and passively pulling material on a routine basis. But give it a few weeks of doing that routinely, and then cut it and see how your body feels and see what's the after effects. Again, it's amazing what happens when we're so focused all the time at adding more material into the body and not always paying attention at what we need to start pulling out of the body.
So you don't want to do that for a long period of time?
You can. I don't see any issue because of the way that it works in the body is doing that binding detoxification. But it's definitely one of those where I like for people to actually say, oh, I started the detoxify, tomorrow, April 17th, and I went until the end of April. And now I wake up better. I'm going to sleep easier. I just don't have any irritation during lunch like I normally would have. Whatever the changes might have been, to then say, okay, that was a good thing. Should I repeat it? Or if you saw no real change, if you, kind of did the process and you're like, well, then maybe it's a different compound that should be coming into the body. And there's so many other ways of detoxifying. From zeolites to different styles of clay, and doing different types of cleanses and flushes that maybe, again, if detoxify isn't making that functional change, then let's look at other options, other compounds. So I definitely want to go through, and if anybody has like particular questions that they have for themselves on their own inflammatory or inflammation-related issues, then we can kind of use that time to sort of help anybody else, sort of talk about like what they've tried, how they've seen things work. Again, astaxanthin's another one that's a little bit of a brand new compound for us to kind of carry and be using. Definitely high level anti-inflammatory function that's occurring inside this particular bottle. And as we see the red algae oils become really the main focus of a lot of people's ingestion, astaxanthin is one of these compounds that we want to understand there is a maximum for taking it on a daily basis. So unlike turmeric and things of that nature that are anti-inflammatory, MSM, TMG, they don't really have a true maximum. They have a body maximum with MSM, but astaxanthin actually can be taken in too high of concentration. 2 to 3 teaspoons per day, 2 to 3 droppers of this is about the most I would recommend for anybody without consulting or actually letting me know what the particular issue is that you're working on to see if you can take additional amounts. So fantastic function and definitely high level anti-inflammatory, great antioxidant potential for the body, but it is one of those where a little bit of cautionary tale for being able to go in and use it on a routine basis. I don't know if it colors the skin that bad. I think if you took that much, you'd have a serious problem. But yeah, I mean, it stains really terrible. But it is one of those where, again, your body has to inflame slightly for breathing function, for digestion, for your immune system to work. And if you're taking something as strong as astaxanthin in too high a concentration, there have been known events and conditions to where people have gone into respiratory arrest, things of that nature for taking far too much astaxanthin. So just keep that in understanding that it's great. 2 to 3 teaspoons a day, probably 12 to 15 milligrams is about the maximum that I would say for anybody who's just taking it on their own, unless there's a particular reason for it. So I love the idea of, again, wrapping up today, the things that really relate to people. Sugar is one of the best ways of accelerating inflammation. High levels of acidity in the body is another easy point of contribution to inflammation in the human body. We talked about toxicity, and we talked about a lot of the vitamin and mineral deficiencies that relate to it. So there's definitely a lot of work to kind of understand this problem in its very large scale. So if there's any questions or anybody has their own particular like battle that they're kind of experiencing and what they'd like to sort of see in terms of the solution set. We'll talk about that now. And then if there's more personal questions or anything to where you'd actually like to look into working on an actual detox program or starting a true full health coaching program, then talk to me afterwards. We can get things scheduled up with that. So again, any questions that we actually have? Mm-hmm. Cleansing. Okay. Stop the cleansing. Don't know of a study that actually says 100% that's the case. It might, again, because the reason for the oil in the juice is for better absorption of the compounds that are in the actual juicing that you're taking in. It's mainly like I was mentioning the idea of doing like turmeric juicing and making sure that you're adding in the oil to that. It is unique though because again, there's so many compounds in our greens that actually require oil to be able to absorb them into the body. And the one thing that most greens are lacking is oil. So it's unique because I would love to say that sounds probably true. The detox potential drops. Does it shut it off completely? No, because even if the best person out there takes 4 or 5 ounces of wheatgrass, it's going to cleanse. It's going to definitely have a function there. But it's again one of those where I know a lot of people who are green juice, making green juice every day, and detoxing technically every day without ever really getting a lot of the vitamin and mineral absorption that's beneficial to the body. To where we see that by adding the oil, it actually helps that process to where it's not as cleansing or as detoxifying. I mean, I don't like anybody to be on a ever constant, always detoxification program. Our bodies just aren't made to be constantly cleansing. We really need to absorb and actually balance that out. So where that's why I like detoxes to last a certain period of time and then re-examine and then adjust and then figure out what's the right way for you to continue to proceed. So I would partially agree.
That would be the reason too for having oil on your salad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Do you
Oil.
get any of the benefit when you do oil pulling as far as getting it into the system, or is that just
Yes, because it's in contact with the bloodstream underneath the tongue, and your body actually absorbs very effectively. That's why I say be careful about swishing with sesame oil all the time because it can lead to inflammation. So that's one of those where, especially around the gums, and if you have an issue with any kind of oral problem, the omega-6 concentration is too high. Even though Ayurvedic tradition kind of focuses on sesame oil, um, there are so many other oils, coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil that actually have nutrient doning capabilities. Even I do a really high grade hemp oil now for my oil swishing, oil pulling. So it's just one of those where, yes, you will absorb if there are compounds inside the oil that go back into the body. The point, though, is to not let it be there long enough to fully absorb any of the toxicity that you're pulling. So, again, with oil pulling, for anybody who doesn't know what that is or not doing it, swishing about a tablespoon of oil in your mouth for about 15 minutes is a process of actually cleaning bacteria, toxins, and anything out of the blood. And if you do it on a good routine basis, it's a definitive benefit to the body. But there is, some, if you're taking in some of those, like I say, hemp oil, avocado oil that have other omega nutrition in it, coconut oil doesn't have all that nutrition compounds in it. It's not that it's actually a food in that way. It's caloric. There are a couple acid compounds, but the mineral density of coconut oil is not excessive. It's very good for the body, but it's not a donor. It's great for the pulling process because it just seems to do a very good job, and people like the taste of it. So there is some absorption, but not something where it's. I would say I wouldn't count that as my daily oil intake for the day. Yes, Val.
Is there some term for like the prerequisite to gout?
To oh
And if we have it like before gout, how do we do that?
okay, so great question because I think a lot of people suffer from pain in their feet or burning or sensitization. Their bodies again are just getting ultra inflamed. Um, so the pre prerequisite is a lot of times you notice very rashy skin all over the body. It's showing of a high acid level. If you're getting what's called hummocking, or your nails look like a washboard, to where they've got multiple ridges on them, that's again another interesting indication of not only protein deficiency but also high acid levels. Urination can be painful if you're that acidic. So that's definitely something where you're getting bladder infections or anything of that nature. Um, if you're just the standard, not to pick on one state or anything, but Minnesota sausage eating, like, that style of person every day, all day long, and you're having burning itchiness that's not athlete's foot infection, but inside the foot pain, then those are those pre kind of indicators that gout's occurring. There's a good chance. If you're all the way to the point of having gout crystallization, which is that form of arthritis, then you really do see that they could take an X-ray and actually see the gout crystalline on the outside of the bones, and you're in a lot of pain by that time. Bunion? No, that's an actual physical growth. That's very different.
How do you get rid of it? The pain inside that grows
Mhm.
What is that?
That's different. That's the actual bending and twisting of ligaments and tendons and the overgrowth of the actual calcium deposits of the. That's what's causing that pain. You're bruising the inside of your foot tissues is what a bunion is. Um, Bunions or gout.
Bone that seems to be growing longer that way.
Yeah, so the idea is to reduce calcium intake. Don't be taking extra calcium because that's just adding to the problem. Um, Start working on the acidity level of your diet. If you're a high acid person, you're going to be leaching more calcium into the bloodstream and out of your bones. So that allows for growth and extension of it. The sad part is that you're probably wearing shoes that are not meant for you to be wearing. So anyone here who's guilty of the idea of wearing 6-inch stiletto heels because you think they're cute, you're destroying your feet for fashion's sake. And it's one of those to where, again, you just look at the style of footwear you're wearing and understand that going barefoot, putting a spacer between your toes to re-straighten the actual large toe is a great way to start that process. So it can start to re-correct itself and go forward. Barefoot walking is a great way of not only fixing a lot of the gout pain and crystallization, but that's one of the things that also, because our shoes are so padded in particular areas and it shoves our feet improper. But the other thing I would highly look into for bunion issues versus gout, it's more than likely a slight twisting of the spine in the lower lumbar section. That's actually pushing your body weight down and out of alignment onto that one foot. And every time you're stepping, you're technically making your foot carry you more in that direction. And so that's realigning your gait, which means your bones adjust to try to support you the best way possible. So, disc degeneration, again, bone broths, high level turmerics, lots of MSM. Be using compounds even like DMSO or MSM oil to the actual lower lumbar area to start seeing that. But the big thing is eating as much cartilaginous tissues as you can in your foods. Taking in some collagen supplements if you'd like to go that route, because that'll help reactivate the actual sponginess that needs to be inside the spine. Inversion table as well, highly recommended for anybody who's experiencing any kind of disc degeneration and compression. 15 to 20 minutes a day inverted, very, very critical to allow that area to stretch a little bit and heal. So definite benefits. Teresa, I know you had your hand up a while back ago. Sorry.
Yeah, the gout.
Uh-huh.
How do you fix that?
So fix your acid. So start actually eating more on the alkaline side of life, drinking alkaline water for a good period of time to balance the body's pH. Be testing weekly on the actual urine and saliva levels for your pH, and find out what you're eating that's directly connected to your acid levels. Coca-Cola, coffee, high levels of meat, anything the body can't digest that breaks down into an acid, these things are directly contributing to gout inflammation.
The bone marrow or the bone broth inverted because it's out of
No, bone broth is very different than red actual meat tissue, red meats. So yeah, that's one of those where that's a little bit different. Sugar as well, definitely.
Alkaline water, is that adding baking soda to?
That's a very fast way of changing your total body alkalinity, and I definitely recommend that during the course of maybe 1 to 2 weeks when you first start seeing that you have gout issue, to get the body's pH to balance. But and that can be a maintenance material that you're doing, a teaspoon a day in water to get the actual material. There have been a lot of internet like rumors and issues about taking baking soda on an empty stomach will actually erode your stomach to where it'll fall off on the inside of your body. So far, it seems to be just a rumor. So it was interesting how that was kind of unique. But you don't want to be taking, and you don't want to have such a heavy acid issue in the stomach that you're eating baking soda all the time. Use it for body balance, but you want to change your diet so your diet's not creating an acid issue. So if you have to fix the heartburn first, in order to actually be eating better foods and digesting well, taking things, and again, like HCl to help your body break material down, um, will kind of contribute to that. The alkalinity in baking soda is a great way of working on things, but you can also put that in your bath water, and it can actually be something through your skin. Your body can balance your pH much more effectively because you're getting all of the actual dermis to transfer compounds back and forth to balance your pH much more effectively. So I do a lot of work now in the bathtub with health. Like that's like such a fun way of doing it. But your bathtub is like the healing reservoir that most people never touch in their house, and they should be using it all the time for at least magnesium, if nothing else, at least magnesium soaking. Such a beneficial piece. Hold on one second there, Val. Let me just. No. Again, I love going to bone broth for it. Oxtail soups, going to pho and actually getting cartilage put inside your soup to where you're eating it directly. Well, again, if you look at the consistency of the bone broth that's in pho is very minimal. When you're fixing your own bone broth, it's got to be gelatinous. That's the collagen. So if it's not thick, then it's not doing its work. Get duck fat, get lard back in your life, get things like that. Actually, those heavy oils, because they will help your conversion process over to elastin and the collagen. The problem I see a lot of times with collagen supplements is that the sourcing is not a very nice process for how they get it, where they pull it from. So that's a piece of it. And then there's, again, the three styles or types of collagen, and we don't know exactly what each person's missing or needs. So sometimes you'll spend a lot of money going from collagen 1, collagen 2, collagen 3, and not get any effects from collagen 1 or 2, maybe see some benefits from collagen 3, but after taking all of them for a long period of time, see very little overall body change occur. So the bone broth seems to be the most direct way, and the more jelly, the better. It's good for you. Make it spicy and enjoy it.
But the Jello don't packet
Oh, no. Yeah, no. That stuff.
They have a service coming soon for both broth.
We do, yes. So
Yeah.
we'll be getting. It's a once a week or twice a week delivery up here.
Yeah.
Is what we're going to start setting up. So if you don't like making your own, then we'll be able to have some material here for you, and it's delicious. But that's the point. I mean, what's better than roasted bones on the stove? I mean, come on. Just add a little bacon, you'll love it. No, it's funny. I don't. I mean, we do because we do a pot of bones every 2 weeks that we boil for 3 days. So it's. I mean, our house smells like bone broth almost pretty much all the time.
That's another benefit of buying it from someone else. You don't want your house to smell like that.
But yeah, so that's fun. Yeah, no, definitely big benefits there. Any other questions, Val, in the back? Baking soda. Yeah. Just make sure it's aluminum free. Aluminum free. That's. Some of them, if they're labeled, yes, they've tested it and it's more specific. But a lot of it, again, it's just not. It needs to say aluminum free on the outside of the container. They do. The Red Mills, yeah, they're a great brand for aluminum free baking soda. Capsules? No, not if you're taking a lot of acetiophilus, because they actually prefer acid, and they could be turning your system more acidic. So if you're just taking acetiophilus or just allowing that, if you want your probiotics to be variable and having multi strains, and I don't mind people taking large dosages, but understand that taking them for too long is actually a disservice to your body and your immune system. Because your body checks for bacteria in your food while you're eating it. And if it's finds something it doesn't like because you decided to go to the $9.99 or the $6.99 Chinese buffet, the interesting issue is your body will immediately say, I don't like that, and it'll put it right back on the plate for you. So it is one of those where when you're taking probiotic constantly into the system, you're not giving the ability for your naturally inhabitant bacteriums to just continue to multiply themselves. You really only need to supersede your body if you're having tremendous digestive issues, and that means you're probably missing a certain style of probiotic. But do it for 30 days and then work with things like Baobab and Lucuma, which are actually prebiotics, which will help your own probiotic live more effectively. One of the things that I find so many people is they think probiotics are just in general healthy, and yet you don't need them all the time. Unless you're under digestive distress, you've gone through chemo, you've had some sort of high-level antibiotics, something that's killed off the stuff inside your body, you don't need to consistently keep going back and adding more. And it's one of the most expensive supplements that most people spend money on is a high-quality probiotic. So it's definitely one that I would, like I say, if you're in good health and your good digestive function, you probably can cut the probiotic. Baobab, the Lucuma. Those can help. Tablespoon, no, they're delicious. Yeah. Lucuma is an alternative sweetener, actually. So it's a really, really nice fruit. And the Baobab has its own like spritzy kind of citrus sort of sweetness from its those plant inulins are what feed the probiotics. So it was a very good job. Good? Home? Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Like I say, every Thursday here at Raw Revelations, we love to help people give back by taking 10% off of any purchased items. If we have any other questions, feel free, stick around. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you later and check you out. If you need any questions on the actual stream channel, feel free to email me at joseph@rrsuperfoods.com or find me at rawrevelations.com. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Hold on. Mike, did you ever join up? Mike, you there? No?